Critical points. Critical points are basically some key points, some key features of a curve. And they happen either when the derivative is 0, so we'll end up with a horizontal tangent, or is undefined. Now, if the derivative is undefined, but the actual function is defined, it means we have a vertical tangent at that point. Okay? But obviously, if the derivative is undefined and the function itself is undefined, well then you've still got an asymptote or whatever you happen to have there. So let's have a look at some examples of what are critical points. So there's well, I guess that's a cubic of some sort. Now, stationary points are still critical points, although we have an extra special name for them, stationary points. So we tend to call them stationary points, but technically they are critical points as well. So you just got to be careful when answering questions about critical points. Sometimes they're just talking about the ones that aren't stationary points, but technically stationary points are critical points. So we have a maximum turning point, we could have a minimum turning point. Here's another one. Well, that's an attempt of drawing a cubic there. Not necessarily a great attempt. So our horizontal point of inflection, that would also be a critical point. Parabola on its side, there's an example of a vertical tangent. So at that point, the derivative would be undefined. The curve still exists there, but you would have a vertical tangent, so that would be a critical point. Something like this, what we call a cusp, that is also a critical point. Now the derivative is undefined there because depending on how you approach the point, if you're approaching from the left-hand side of this one, you would get a negative derivative because the curve is decreasing, but if you would approach it from the right-hand side, you'd have a positive tangent. So because they're not equal at that point, that limit, then it's undefined. So sharp point, I suppose, is an easier way of saying it. You get a sharp point, that's a critical point because the curve is undefined. It's still a minimum point in that case, but not because the derivative is 0. That was a very quick just explanation of critical points.